Welcome to Market Like a Hotshot. I'm Jeff the Social. I'm here with James Feudo. What's up, James?
Jeff, how you doing on this beautiful Friday
afternoon in Framingham, Massachusetts, right? It's kind of windy out there today. I hope my hair's not messy here from blowing in the wind there. It's a little out of place, so I apologize about that today. So
you look great, especially for the people on Spotify.
They won't be able to see me, right? So episode 2, how about that? We made it to the second one here. Yeah. So we're going to talk about, kind of expand on how to market yourself like a hot shot. So we're going to tell you a great story to start us off in the music world a little bit. And then we're going to kind of go through like a few different scenarios of, types of businesses. As a recruiter, I want to talk a little bit about the job situation, how to stand out there as a company, as a candidate. Right. But let's start with that story.
Yeah.
It was a Friday night in April in Burlington, Kings in Burlington, Mass. What was up at that night? Huh?
So to give you a little bit of background, Jeff and I are both musicians. We both play guitar. We both love heavy metal.
Yes.
And we both love karaoke. So we've done karaoke several times over the last couple of years, and we have a lot of fun with it. So we were up at Kings, right? And do you remember how we were like the 5th or 6th act, or maybe we're like the 8th act? It doesn't matter. But we had a whole bunch of people that went before us. Yeah. And do you remember those people that went before us, what they did, and how they sounded, right?
Yeah, they were like, they were really good.
They were.
I was like, where's Simon Cowell? Is he around here?
I know.
It's like, there's some really good, but they were picking these songs like, all right, Bruno Mars, great musician. I love Bruno Mars, but Celine Dion, not a big fan, but hey, very talented. And then you had like Barry Manilow, all these different songs, Neil Diamond. And then what did we pick?
So, Jeff just randomly is like, I don't know if maybe you were thinking of Stranger Things, but Jeff's like, oh, let's do Master of Puppets. And I'm like, why not?
Metallica. Woo!
And, if you're not familiar with Master of Puppets, I think you can watch probably the most recent episode or the last season of Stranger Things. But the song is 8.5 minutes long, we learned. And I'd say maybe 3 minutes of it is us actually. Yeah. It's all mostly guitar. I think that's why we both love it. I'm a heavy metal guitarist. I love playing that. I think we were like headbanging and air guitaring most of the time.
Now, how would you pitch this, right? At a suburban club on a Friday night, you have 2 over 50-year-olds banging their heads, screaming "Master, Master." So what do you think? After all that, what was kind of the feedback? What did you get back for that?
Well, what was interesting is that we were with a group of about 12 of us, maybe, let's say, and I thought one person in particular said it very gently, where he's like, that was incredible. And he's like, while, you guys are good singers, which I thought was a huge compliment. Because
how many beers did he have?
I had none. I don't.
No, I mean, he have.
Yeah, I mean, like how many? And he's like, but you know what? He's like, you guys entertained everybody up there. And it was funny because after we got done singing, I was walking back after I put the mic back to the DJ, and 2 women stopped me, and one of them was like, oh, my husband just went to Metallica. And the other one was telling me about all this stuff, and it's like I had a conversation with them. And I think if you and I tried to go up there and maybe picked a song that was, very mellow, and
we did Air Supply.
Yeah, if we did Air Supply, we would have put people to sleep.
Put people to sleep. Sorry, Air Supply, I didn't mean that.
But the point is that we were different. Everyone else is doing like these, they're good songs, and it's great if you're trying out for American Idol. Everybody there besides us probably could be on American Idol, The Voice, whatever those TV shows are. You and I, we still need some work, I think, with our vocals. But the point is that we stood out because we were different, and we were different in kind of a cool way. And that's something that we run into. I think you've mentioned this a few times, is that when we look at the way people market themselves, they just do the same thing that everyone else is doing. They sign up to some coach, and the coach tells them, do this, do this, do this, and this. And everybody kind of follows that formula. Thing, and you see the same thing, right? We were talking about this on LinkedIn the other day, right?
Yeah. I mean, and it's kind of a little bit viral on LinkedIn these days. That you're seeing a lot of AI-like posts with the emojis and all that. And a lot of people are doing these same things.
Right.
I mean, when we coach people on LinkedIn, and, the old saying is make sure you like, comment, repost, share.
Exactly.
everyone's doing that.
Right.
If everyone does that, then how do they stand out?
Right.
The same thing applies. Like, let's talk about small business, and we'll get into some other areas like music and the job hunt stuff,
and food.
We got to talk about food. That's another one too. So, but like you work with small businesses with your company, James. Right. Like, how do you make a small business stand out, or how do you coach them to stand out?
Right, because again, it's like they'll come to us and they say, this coach said I should do this, follow this pattern, and I'm like, well, everybody's using that same pattern. What makes you different? What's your story? Who are you? Who? Again, the Who song is coming in my head now every time I say
another classic song, right?
Yeah, more music.
They're in their 80s, and they're still
performing.
They have a farewell tour. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Now I remember, I'm old, right? I remember the 1982 farewell tour. Now they're having another one here in 2025. But go ahead.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing too is sometimes it's really hard to differentiate your product. So you and I were talking about this earlier, restaurants, and Jeff and I are both Italian. I love pizza. It's my favorite food. And, let's say you're a pizza place, right? As a small business, like I judge my pizza restaurants by their cheese pizza. I don't know if you do the same, but think about it. You're a pizza place. What are your options for differentiating?
For a pizza place?
Yeah.
There's sauce.
Right.
I mean, I'll tell you right now, like if you're, and I'll tell you, I'm going to give a little kudos to Bossy and Natick on the street here. Me and Heather went there Saturday night for some pizza and pickleball, right?
Mm-hmm.
Man, that was a good pizza.
Yeah.
You know what it is? It was good sauce. It was not like rough. It was not like, it was good. And now I remember it. And right. I'm Italian. I'm from Rhode Island. Lots of great pizza in Rhode Island.
Exactly.
And that stood out.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. When you build a product that stands out, or do you market yourself to stand out, you want to be remembered, and that's a great way. Any other food ideas that we're on that food right now?
When you look at pizza, for example, it's like, there's so many places around here that have good pizza, good food. And, that's something sometimes that people can replicate. It's, when you're making pizza, they can get the same oven you're using. They can buy the same dough or find, they can probably figure out your sauce recipe, because it's like, I look at Regina's, I look at Sally's Pizza up in Woburn. There's pizzas like, sauce is easy to recreate if you have a taste for it. You can figure it out. Cheese, I mean, nobody makes their own mozzarella. So, it's just figuring out where they're getting the supply from. But, crafting a good pizza is not, terribly, terribly difficult to do. But, the way you present it, and there's more to it with, a restaurant. Like when you go in, it's your atmosphere. And it kind of goes back to, I always use Disney as an example. Disney, it's like you take that versus Six Flags out here in Agawam. You walk around Disney, everything is themed. The benches, and the same thing with Universal Studios. It's the same thing. But you go to some of these local, smaller amusement parks, and they don't have that atmosphere there. You walk in, you go from ride to ride. Disney, Universal, you have music always playing in the background. So they set the atmosphere. So
they stand out, right?
That's what helps them stand out.
Stands out.
And, granted, Disney and Universal are, multi-billion-dollar companies, but you can still do that at the small business level. It's
amazing the tools. Like you could be a small business that makes, $100 a year or $100 million. Yeah. You all have access to the same tools.
You have access to tools. And that's one of the things that we do when we work with our clients is we're like, what's your story? What makes you different? And we promote that because they're not just another restaurant or another health and wellness coach or another IT IT company. With us, we always say we're more than just a web design company, right?
Yeah.
And the same thing, like if you're a financial advisor, right? Like there's a lot, or a real estate agent, what makes you different? And a lot of times, you ask, go to any networking event, yours. Yeah. How many times do we go to your events and there's 5 real estate agents there?
And 20 financial advisors.
Exactly. And it's like, have you ever asked them, how do you differentiate yourself?
I ask that question all the time. Whenever I meet somebody, I'll be like, okay, that's good. You do that. All right. What makes you different? Why would I want to work with you?
Exactly.
And then if they say the cliche canned, approach, I'm like, no. Yeah. It has to be a little bit different than that. And And the thing is, you have to also, you know, that's why it's all about relationship building in those businesses. And that's why I talk to like financial advisors. Like my financial advisor knew me for 3 years before I did a business with them. Yeah. Right. He's a great guy, you know, and all that. He's done very well, you know, doing well for me. But, you know, but he was different. He had what I liked about him and was he knew Jeff and he talked about Jeff. He stood out. Right. So that, you know, that's a little tip for if you're in those businesses is, you know, get to know your clients very well, just like a restaurant or anything. It's kind of almost full circle there. That how do you stand out? How are you remembered?
Exactly.
You know, and that's how you mark yourself like a hot shot.
Exactly, and it's like shot. Yeah, I mean, a lot of times it's like people will remember you for how you make them feel.
No.
And that's it. It's in personal relationships, it's in business relationships, and it's between businesses. It's like, how do you make people feel when they interact with you? One of the things that we had talked about is we've had a ton of people applying for our summer internships.
Yeah, I heard it. People want to work at JBF Solutions.
It's funny.
Why is that? Huh?
And, you know, word of mouth, like, you know, we've had we have at least one intern this summer that was referred from another intern. I was overwhelmed. I'm still like going back. We're done recruiting for the summer. Now we're recruiting for the fall. So now I'm going back in and going through and figuring out who might be interested in working here in the fall. But, you know, having your brand, like that's one of the things that a lot of people don't understand is it's just like, you're just another this, like you're whatever your industry is, whatever your business is, you don't want to be just another someone. You want to be someone that people comes up to you. Like I was at an event recently and someone walked up and they're like, I just wanted to introduce myself. I see all the branding, you know, I love what you're doing with your brand. I see you everywhere. And like people tell me I'm everywhere, which I love. Yeah. You know, our team does an incredible job of, you know, making sure that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. But it's not something that comes easy either. It's like, you know, it's a combination of managing your time. Yeah, exactly. Determining where you really need to be. And that comes over time. 3 years ago, no one was telling me that. Yeah. But it's a combination of like, you know, making mistakes. And like we talked about last time. I
bring that up. You read my mind. But another thing, you can't have fear of messing up, right? And you have to keep trying. That's where consistency comes in. It's like, you know, try something, it failed. Try something, it failed again. But then you got it, right? It took 3 years, right? Now you're a rock star, like a hot shot on social media, right?
Well, yeah. I love the term hotshot because that's what we all aim to be. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, whether you're a restaurant, you're something that's common, you've got to figure out what your story is and who you are, because people love story. They want to do business with people. They don't want to do business with corporations. You know, they want to.
That's why Amazon's like imploding these days, right?
I mean, like, you know, they're still $1 trillion company, so I wish I had their problems.
Yeah, I know, right?
But you know, I mean, I think that's a lot of it. Is that just like there's been a focus, like something we're seeing now at the micro level is that a lot of people want to do business with small businesses. They don't want to work with bigger firms. They want to work local. So there's a lot of that coming out there. So like that's part of your story. But what I found is that, and you can tell me how you feel like in recruiting because you see this all the time. Yeah. But what I see a lot of times is it's just like people will come up, they're like, you know, they'll recommend somebody. They're like, they're a good person. They have a great story. They're passionate. Like we talked about last time, they're passionate about what they're doing. It comes through in how they serve their community. And, you know, like when you're recruiting, you know, when you get 10 resumes for a job, how does that apply?
Well, I mean, resumes are, you know, it's a piece of paper, right? It's a piece of paper. I've had some resumes that look incredible, and then I interview the candidate, and it's like total opposite, right? They don't, you know, when I interview somebody for a role, you know, because hey, I'm putting my reputation on the line with the client. I don't even want to give our clients 3 of the best, not 10 mediocre. So I always ask the question to a candidate, what sets you apart? Or you're a great data engineer, right? You're a great Python developer, et cetera, right? Okay, what have you done differently? Did you save the company? Did you invent a product that's like life-changing? Did you do something different? Did you build something different? Were you like the ultra collaborator? You talk to the most untechnical person, technical person. I always like to ask those questions because, when I tell their story to our clients, I want to tell the client a story about the candidate. And I always ask candidates, really, before we talk, think about that, right? Think about what makes you different. Because just like Metallica and the world of Celine Dion and Bruno Mars, we were different that night.
Right.
People remembered us, right? It's just like music, right? Yeah. David Bowie, Nirvana, all those different bands and musicians that they stood out. David Bowie wearing makeup in 1974, Nirvana with the
grunge,
and the plaid shirts, after an era of hairspray and spandex pants, right? They stood out. Yeah. It was the greatest. That's you remember those bands, just like in pizza, and just like as candidates when you're recruiting. So I guess we're coming in for a landing. Looks like. Yeah,
and I'm gonna close out with this thought because I'm a big pro wrestling fan, and there's a movie called Fighting with My Family. And The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, has a really good quote in there that I showed my team because I think it really explains this in a short sentence, which is that these 2 people come up to him and they're like, "Oh, we love you, blah, blah, blah. Do you have any advice? How do you do this? How do you do that?" And then he goes into like an example of his character. And then he's like, the bottom line is this. He's like, don't worry about being the next Dwayne Johnson. Worry about being the first you. Yeah. And I think that piece of advice is probably the most useful thing for people that are trying to stand out. Be really who you are. There's that famous quote, be yourself. Everyone else is already taken, right?
Exactly.
And be genuine because people can see through that. If you're not genuine, they know that. So you want to be yourself. You're the only you. You have so many unique things about you, and there's so many things that make you different from other people. You got to figure that out and how you tie that into your brand. So that's my closing thought, is to figure out who you are and apply that to your marketing and apply that to your story.
And actually write it down. Right. Draw it out. Don't put it in your head. Don't put it on your computer. Put it on a wall in your office, because that's where, that keeps your mind kind of sharp, right? Just like when we bang our heads to a Metallica song, right? So we close with that clip.
Yeah, we'll put the clip up.
Put the clip up at the end here, right after this. We don't want to bore you with the clip at the beginning of our podcast. We'll do it at the end. So, hey, this is great, James. What do you think?
I think this is good. We're looking forward to the next one, and
we're ready for the next one. And let's leave it with a little bit of Master of Puppets right here. Have a great day.